we have 3 panelists today. They're going to be representing 3 companies that have participated in CEP in the past. So thank you so much for coming here. First up, we have Alex Wright, and he's the CSO at Ayar Labs. And Alex is the co-founder of Ayar Labs and was its founding CEO. Ayar Labs makes computers faster and more energy efficient by using light to move data between chips instead of electricity. Alex met her technical co-founders, the inventors of the world's first processor to communicate using light, while getting an MBA at MIT in 2014. They competed in the 2015 MIT Clean Energy Prize and won the grand prize. As CEO of Ayar Labs, Alex raised the company's first $27 million venture funding, as well as several million more in non-dilutive government grants. Prior to founding Ayar Labs, Alex was the energy entrepreneurship practice leader at MIT, and prior to that was an energy efficiency program manager and the energy markets specialist at Smart Grid company. So that's our first guest. We have our second one, who is Elise Strobach, CEO at AeroShield, who is the 2019 winner. Elise is the CEO and co-founder of AeroShield, which manufactures porous glass insulation for energy efficient windows. She founded AeroShield during her PhD in MECI after winning CEP in 2019. And she now is working full-time to scale up the company and has just closed a pre-seed round that was led by Mass CEC. And finally, our third panelist is Quantum Wei, co-founder of Harmony Desal. Quantum is a PhD candidate in mechanical engineering at MIT and a co-founder of Harmony Desal. Harmony Desal is on a mission to make water desalination more affordable and sustainable. Its breakthrough technology, batch reverse osmosis, is the most energy efficient reverse osmosis process. The first commercial application for batch RO is household water purifiers in India, where it can produce more water and less waste. So Adam and Ari from our partnership team will moderate the panel. Feel free to drop questions in the chat for our panelists, and they're here to answer anything that you have and hopefully provide some inspiration for this competition.
Great, thank you, Sushmitha. And thank you to our 3 panelists for being here today. So we have a number of questions for the panelists to learn about their experiences with the competition and hear their insights. And I'd like to start by asking a question to each of the 3 panelists. So the question is, can we hear your startup's 1 to 2 minute elevator pitch? And anyone can jump in.
I'll go ahead and start. So hi, I'm Alex of Ayar Labs, and we are making computers more energy efficient and faster by using light to move data between chips. So we're solving a problem that actually has emerged because computer chips have gotten exponentially more powerful over time. And how we move data between those computer chips hasn't kept up with that exponential growth. And so what we've ended up with is a bottleneck that prevents us from being able to make full use of the processing power that we have. And so by using light to move data between chips, you open up that bottleneck, make it possible to fully use the processing power that we have, and really dramatically reduce the idling time that processors, GPUs, and other types of chips and big computing systems have while they're just waiting for data and burning power. And so that can really cut down on the amount of energy used in computing, which is the fastest growing user of energy worldwide.
Thank you. Elise, Quantum.
Sure, I can go next. So I'm Elise, CEO of AeroShield, and we are working to make nanoporous glass for energy efficient windows. And it turns out that we spend 80% of our lives inside of a building. And we all know that windows are an essential part of, that light, that comfort, that happiness. But it turns out they come with a $40 billion price tag in the form of thermal heating and cooling energy losses every year in the United States. And that's a really challenging problem to solve because, as you can imagine, the list of materials that are transparent and insulating and affordable is pretty small. And so AeroShield wants to solve this problem of these huge energy losses by bringing this new material, this based on silica aerogel technology, so a nanoporous form of glass that allows it to be more transparent than glass, twice as insulating as air, and lighter than a marshmallow, and with a very small layer integrated into new windows in the manufacturing step, taking advantage of all that existing infrastructure. We can deliver a thinner, lighter, more efficient window with a payback period that's 5 times faster than existing technologies. So that's pretty exciting. So as mentioned in the introduction, founded this company out of my PhD work. And so we just spun out of the lab in early 2020, just before the pandemic really kind of shut things down. We got established and been working on scaling up that manufacturing with a pretty amazing team, and are also, happy to speak to, so many of the opportunities that the Clean Energy Prize opened up for us by being that really key support, not only in terms of financing, but resources overall. So yeah, thank you.
Awesome, thanks Elise. And Quantum?
Hi everyone, I'm Quantum, co-founder of Harmony Desal, and we're on a mission to make water desalination more affordable and sustainable. So the problem is the world needs more fresh water. With populations growing larger and wealthier, and the effects of climate change, traditional water supplies are becoming more and more stressed. Fortunately, we have almost a limitless supply of fresh water in the oceans. If we can take the salt out of ocean water, we can make it drinkable. And we know how to do this. Seawater desalination is a widespread technology. $30 billion will be invested in it over the next several years. The problem is, though, seawater desalination is still quite energy intensive, and this contributes to the relatively high cost of seawater desal. The reason reverse osmosis, the state-of-the-art desal technology, uses so much energy is because of the high pressures involved. Conventional reverse osmosis is a static process. It constantly operates at a really high pressure. Our technology, batch reverse osmosis, is a dynamic process where the pressure changes over time. So we start at a low pressure and work our way up to a high pressure. In this way, we're able to produce the same amount of fresh water while saving a lot of energy. In fact, batch RO is the most energy efficient RO process. So this technology was developed at MIT. There's still some tech development needed before it's ready to hit the seawater desalination market. But in the meantime, we're looking at our first commercial application where batch RO can help reduce water waste in household water purifiers in India. There are incoming environmental regulations that will really spur the adoption of our technology. So we're currently working on prototyping, working with purifier OEMs to try and get our technology out into the market there. And then after that, we'll be looking to move to seawater desal, where we can reduce the energy intensity and greenhouse gas emissions associated with this really crucial source of water. Yeah, excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Great, thanks for those responses. Quantum actually had a follow-up question specifically for you. Could you speak to what stage Harmony Desal was at prior to entering CEP, and how you think the competition contributed to accelerating the company towards commercialization?
Yeah, happy to talk about that. So Harmony Desal, I co-founded Harmony Desal with my 2 co-founders actually kind of right before CEP. It was in January of this year. And I think the CEP applications were probably due in February of this year, and the competition took place over the months of March and April. So really, I think CEP helped in a couple of ways. I mean, it was really kind of the first chance for us to work together as a team. So I think, and develop our business pitch. So the pitch deck is kind of the center of it. It kind of gave us this mission to craft a compelling story about our business, along with all of the things needed to kind of the evidence you need to provide to investors to beef that up. So really working through that and iterating through that, I think really got us to gel together as a team and really refine our business model, and actually had us change directions at some point. So I think it was really critical, especially at the very beginning, to kind of get us started and on a good trajectory.
Great. The next question will be for Elise. Elise, what was the biggest benefit to you and to AeroShield from competing in the competition?
Yeah, I would say that for us, it really came at a time when we were, very similar to Quantum's story, kind of just getting that first formation and getting into the ecosystem for the first time as not really a research project. Like, this was our first opportunity to kind of get out into the world as AeroShield and test out this idea. And what was really valuable that we didn't expect from the experience was the networking. Understanding the clean energy tech. I mean, Clean Energy Prize is well known in this ecosystem, and many of the people who eventually became investors or funders or just supporters and advocates were relationships that we first started or first made during the Clean Energy Prize. So certainly that has been incredibly valuable. Obviously, having that capital to get you started, if you're able to win a prize, is definitely valuable. But I would say that just as valuable was the seeds of those relationships that we started. And then, of course, the second part was it's just the fast iteration of being able to go through, you have to put together your application, you have to get this information ready. And, it's nice to say that, we would have done all those things to that same efficacy, if we hadn't been a part of the Clean Energy Prize. But I think it really catalyzed us to look at it and to prepare that information for the first time, to not only share it with others and get that feedback, get that input, but also, start to understand how we present the idea. Since then, I think we've learned a lot about how different ecosystems, different people interpret the solution that we're providing and how they can help. I mean, it's not just everybody in the clean tech ecosystem, but people who have, come in through this venue and made connections with us that have opened doors to other aspects of either our industry or our company development that have just, continued to give back. So we looked at it as an investment. We didn't have any aspirations, for thinking that we would walk away as a prize winner, let alone a grand prize winner. And so I think when we put the work in, it really was about, we were looking for the resources, the networking, and the mentorship. And we definitely got a return on investment on the time and the effort that we put in and used that well.
Thanks, Elise. Next, I have a question for Alex. Alex, funding is obviously important for all of our teams here. Did you find that participating in CEP helped raise additional funds beyond the event itself?
It absolutely did. And, before I go into more detail, I just want to echo what Elise and Quantum both said, which is for us, despite winning the grand prize, which was amazing, and we didn't go in expecting that we would, I think what was actually the most helpful part of participating was that we really became a true team thanks to becoming semifinalists. We just decided, hey, let's throw our hat in the ring, let's submit a pitch deck. We didn't know whether we would even make it as semifinalists, but when we did and we were assigned 3 mentors, that's when we started really working together, realizing how well we work together as a team, and really learning how to craft our pitch deck and build our business model. So, just reiterating what the others said, that the prize, the mentorship was probably the most valuable thing coming out of it. That said, it's hugely valuable to be able to raise your, it's like a friends and family round without having to go out and raise money from your friends and family, or give up any dilution or any equity in the company, which is really rare in business plan competitions. So I think that's really valuable as well. And it definitely helped us raise money in a few ways. I would say the first way is that it gave us some publicity. We got written up in a few different newspaper outlets. And so we just became, we got good exposure thanks to winning. And I think that was true, not just for us, but also for the folks who won some of the prizes that were more specific to different sectors as well. So it was good exposure for a number of teams coming out that year. But the other way that I think it really helped is that by winning the prize, we had a little bit of breathing room, a runway coming out of, all 3 of us were graduating, me from my MBA and my co-founders from their PhDs. And we didn't feel that we had to go fundraise right away upon graduating. We took 6 months. We waited until, we won in May 2015. 2015, and we waited until January 2016 before we started actually fundraising from venture capital investors for our seed round, which ended up being $2.5 million. And just having that time gave us time to, for us, we wanted to move out to California so that we could really get to meet a lot of people in the semiconductor industry, which we were entering. And having that time to have lots of conversations with different folks in the semiconductor industry and really understand how our technology could fit in helped us really improve our story and our plan ahead of then going and raising from venture capital investors. Another thing, can I just respond to one question that was asked before the panel, which was, should you license or at least get an option to your technology prior to competing? I would say, we ended up licensing a portfolio of about a dozen patents from MIT, and we were in discussions about it prior to winning. We were in discussions about signing this option agreement prior to winning. We hadn't actually signed it, and if I were to do it again, I would sign the option agreement prior to the finals because all the publicity that we got from winning brought a lot of other people into the licensing office, all of a sudden interested in this portfolio of patents. And it's much easier to get an exclusive option on patents if there's no other interest in them than if you get a lot of other interest in them from winning a prize. So that's my 2 cents.
Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing that. I'm going to go to Quantum for the next question. Quantum, can you tell us about your experience meeting other CEP competitors? And did you take away anything specific after learning about their ideas and their companies?
Yeah, I think the example that comes to mind was one of the other teams in our cohort, Nitricity. They actually won the grand prize this year. It was really cool seeing their pitch. We also featured on the MIT Energy Initiative podcast with them together, so we got a chance to speak with them there. But they were definitely further along than we were in terms of they'd been together for a longer amount of time. I think the biggest thing that we noticed that we thought was really cool was the amount of customer traction they'd gotten. So they had pilot tests with customers and were able to highlight in their pitch deck. So I think that's one of kind of the, lessons we learned definitely from that team was how important that is and how people like to see that. And yeah, cool to see they've been having success. So cool to follow them along their journey.
Thanks, Quantum. The question here for Elise. Elise, looking back at your experience, is there any advice you would share with potential CEP participants?
Yeah, so I do think that with the CEP competition, it really is about, you're going to be able to get out what you put in. So I would recommend that, really give it your all, take advantage of the opportunities, especially this year. It sounds like there's going to be a lot of fantastic programming. And I think that it is, it's easy to say, I don't have time for this because I want to work on my deck instead of, say, taking advantage of some of these opportunities. But these are really a unique opportunity, as you talked about, for all of us. This was a pivotal transformation of us stepping out of this. It's an idea that we had that, for the first time we got on stage and were able to test it. But in a really nice way, right? Like, this is not a group of investors, or it's not a group of people that want to see you fail. If anything, they just want to give you tools for success. And so this is a fantastic place to try new things, really push yourself. Where else, if you're not part of this community, if you don't qualify for a competition like this, where else do you get this kind of experience? Mentors that are helping you craft a pitch, communicating with your audience, the right network that you want to reach, cohort companies that are going through stages that either you are going through right now or will go through or have gone through, and you can share that collaboration. And what a unique ecosystem of individuals. I think I could speak for everybody on this panel to say that we would happily, answer questions and reach out and share, and really such a give back community. That is really rare, and it is, something that I think you only get a chance to experience in this one opportunity. So my recommendation would be don't just take it. Don't just say, we'll submit a deck. And I can say this because we did some of this of, we'll submit a deck and we'll see what happens, you know, go get the most out of it. You know, it might not be the prize, you know, as we've talked about, some of the biggest value has just been going through the process and using those mentors and practicing a lot of these skills, not only with your team, but, you know, just as an individual. It's a great place to try this on, get a lot of learning in a really friendly, supportive environment. So it can be a great growth opportunity, but of course, you'll have to make the time for it, and you'll have to put the effort in and really take that advice and that feedback. But yeah, it's a fantastic catalyst for whatever you want to do next.
I see there's a good question in the chat I want to bring up. So this can be for any panelist who's had an experience. Have you participated in a pitching accelerator style program before this one? And if you have, can you compare some of the experiences?
I had not before the Clean Energy Prize, but at the time, the Clean Energy Prize was part of like a network of other prizes, both nationally in DC, there was one, and then there was one in Boulder that I participated in afterwards. And I will say this one was by far the most valuable to me among those three, just because of all the mentorship that we've been talking about. So the mentorship and the events are both just super valuable and really unique. So I echo everything Elise said.
Yeah, and we didn't do any of the pitching accelerator, incubator, that kind of style, I think really before the Clean Energy Prize, but we did do a significant amount after. And I would say that they really do, one thing is that, you know, pitching and accelerating kind of programs or competitions, they're gonna have a very specific outcome, right? Like they're going to have a focus. So for example, like an accelerator, I can find one that's really focused around giving me a very holistic, like training, like a program with deliverables that I have to submit. But I can also find one that's just geared towards, you know, some light touch mentorship and then connecting me with strategics, and that's it. So I would say that the Clean Energy Prize has a really concrete and specific thesis around, you know, what it's asking for and also what it can help you with. And I think that they're two separate pieces to consider. So they definitely certainly can complement each other. But I do think it really depends on what, you know, what you want to get out. And I think Clean Energy Prize, yeah, it is a nice piece of a if you want to take advantage of that kind of ecosystem. I think it's an addition. I wouldn't say that they are, you know, one or the other. I would recommend both. But of course that worked out well for us and was what I needed, as particularly as a CEO, to, you know, be exposed to everything that I needed to do coming next, because at that point we did know that AeroShield was moving towards commercialization and founding a company.
Yeah, I'd echo what Elise has said. I know, so we participated in the Clean Tech Open, which is an accelerator over the summer. And I know Elise's team has also participated in that. That program relative to the Clean Tech Open is much more intensive in terms of length and kind of the programming that they do. So I think the Clean Energy Prize was really good for us, kind of as the first really competition that we did, because it was a little more light touch. I mean, Clean Energy Prize is geared towards university teams, whereas the Clean Tech Open was more broad. You have kind of startups coming from all over. So I think both kind of have their time and place. You just have to figure out what's right for you. Yeah, take a really close look at who's participating in these competitions and accelerators. Try and talk to previous participants if you can, to get a sense. I talked to Elise when we were deciding whether to participate in the Clean Tech Open. So I think that can be really helpful as well.
That's awesome. Thank all three of you so much for sharing, you know, that question throughout this whole session. It's been really interesting for me as a board member to learn more about it. And I'm sure for the prospective applicants, it's really illuminated a lot of really good things to consider when thinking about how to approach our competition. So thank you very much for your time.